Hi, Stitchers. Welcome to Tatreez Talk, where we share conversations about Palestinian embroidery. I'm Lena, here with my co-host Amani, chatting with talented embroiderers and artists, sharing their stories, inspirations, and the cultural significance behind their work.
On today's episode, we are chatting with Sara, our first ever guest, who is the founder of Deerah, a small Palestinian Tatreez design house that sheds light on the art of Palestinian embroidery and challenging deep-seated prejudice against Palestinian culture. Welcome back to Tatreez Talk, Sara.
Hi, thank you guys for having me again.
Oh, so exciting. I love talking to Sara.
Oh, thank
Yes.
you. I love talking to
We
you
should
guys too.
we should also tell the listeners last summer when Lena and I were in Jordan, we got to spend some time with Sada and it was amazing. Sada and her mom. I love your mom.
Oh yeah.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, it was so much fun. Yes, I
Yes.
loved it. I loved it. Honestly, seeing you guys and just chatting and like our in in like in real life kind of like felt like yeah, I wish you could do it all the time.
Yeah,
Yes,
a
same,
hundred
same.
percent, 100%.
Yeah, I have to come back when my foot isn't broken,
Yes,
so
when you're not in a
Yeah.
wheelchair,
when I'm not in
then
a wheelchair. It's on the list. It's on the list, Habibi.
Because like Amman is not the most, accessibility friendly city as
Yeah.
you saw. So I mean, we didn't reach full potential for Amman, but next
Yeah.
time we'll do it.
Yes.
Oh my goodness, 100%. So we're so excited to bring you back because we actually have kind of a little different of an angle to take you on in terms of conversation. So we often get questions about how to properly wear and care for tatreez, whether it's a piece that you've embroidered yourself or it's one that you've purchased and cherished dearly. So we thought it'd be the perfect time to bring you back, Sada, to dive into this topic because you have expertise in ensuring fair wages for refugee women who craft high quality tatreez, emphasis on the high quality. And you also bring invaluable insight into how to care for these pieces while honoring their artistry and heritage. So we're really, really excited to dive into this general area of conversation with you today.
Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, it's definitely, I love this topic a lot. I get asked this a lot from customers and clients and friends. And from just like my experience working with tattoos and with the embroiders and just creating these pieces, yeah, I've just acquired a little bit of knowledge about how to care for them because, as you said, they're like very valuable items, and we want to keep them around for as long as we can. And so, yeah, there's definitely a lot to talk about.
Definitely. Yeah. And I think whether it's a piece that you have embroidered yourself or a piece that you have purchased from a talented embroiderer, like we all want to cherish and keep our tatreez for the next generation. So I think let's dive in. I think one of the first things we want to talk about are what are some of the misconceptions people have about wearing tatreez in everyday life? Because I think, traditionally women were wearing tatreez every single day. And now we're sometimes a little scared about that. So can you talk a little bit about the misconceptions around that?
Yeah, so like you said, traditionally, Tatris really held a different, I want to say, function in our lives than does today. So women would typically, this is what they would wear every day. Different clothes had different functions. Some of them were made, to be worn every day to work in. Others were made for like bridal events. Some were made for special occasions, for religious occasions, and it just depends on what the need was, they created it, but all of them were very obviously intricate and beautiful and made. But I guess nowadays it has a different, I want to say, use. People usually wear it either for formal events when it comes to like a traditional thobe, or to kind of represent their heritage in an event or in a place where they want to, show that they're Palestinian or pay tribute to their heritage in whatever way. So that's where it is right now in our current times. I think there is a bit of a misconception about like filters and like putting it or wearing it in everyday wear, that it might be disrespectful. We've had a lot of conversations as well with people that are not Palestinian that want to wear filters as well. And I think you guys also touched on this topic a lot. And so there is, I think, a little bit of maybe a misconception about like filters generally. I think filters was just like a beautiful way of adorning clothing, and it is turned into a language that the women use to represent themselves and their lives, and they really elaborated on how beautifully to make it what it is today, you know, something that you can actually study and learn and pass on. But generally, the clothing themselves were to serve a purpose. And so I feel like if today in our day and age, if we have clothing that serves a purpose and we are using it in the same manner, meaning that we have, you know, a function or something that we have to do, but at the same time we still want it to be beautiful and use our heritage and our tatreez and to make it, you know, something that's close to our heart but also beautiful, then I think that it makes sense. I don't think it's disrespectful, especially obviously there are some exceptions to this rule. But generally speaking, if it's everyday wear and you're adding tatreez to it, I don't see that there's a problem personally. And even if it is someone that's from outside the culture, so long as they say that and educate people, and you know, when asked about it, that it is Palestinian, then I don't see that there's a problem with it.
Yeah, totally. I mean, well, I'm curious. It's so funny because I'm actually wearing a t-shirt with Tatreez on it, and I wear it to the gym, and people like gawk at me. They're like, "Oh, how could you possibly wear something and like use it in the gym?" I'm like, yeah, but it's a t-shirt. Like it's meant to be like I made this t-shirt with that intention, and it's lasted. This is a t-shirt I'm not throwing away. You know, like if I get a hole in it or something, I'm gonna mend it and use it because it has the Tatreez on it. So maybe I guess a great follow-up question to kind of this conversation so far is how can people confidently style their Tatreez pieces without fear of damaging them?
So it definitely has to do with obviously well, number one, the first thing that kind of comes to mind is layering. I mean, the if it's hand embroidered, you don't want anything to kind of like rub against it too much. So if there's another fabric that's kind of layered on top and it's kind of doing that wear and tear, and causing, you know, the cotton to kind of like get out of place, and maybe that will, you know, take down the I want to say longevity of your piece. But as long as it's not, you're not layering anything on top of it, then you should be fine. I mean, the wearing it confidently from one person to the other kind of differs. Some people want to wear it with, you know, want to wear it traditionally. Other people want to wear tatreez and style it in a way that's kind of to their personal style. I've seen it all through the years, and I think every way that I've seen it is so beautiful and not something that I would ever, you know, that would kind of come to mind. I've seen a lot of people like style their tatreez with like where it's like coins and stuff like that, but with still like streetwear and stuff, and I think it's so cool. And other people kind of like tend to want to make it look a little bit more traditional with like a modern day dress, but with tatreez. But in terms of like the piece itself, so long as the tatreez is not styled in a way where you have another layer kind of like rubbing against the tatreez, then you're good. Again, if it's just a one time, if it's a high quality item, it shouldn't be a big deal. But if there's a lot of sweating or humidity and something rubbing against the tatreez itself, then that will probably wear off with time. I think number one thing to think about when you think about durability of the piece is to think about the quality, obviously, the quality of the fabric itself, the quality of the thread, because there is low quality thread out there, especially here in the Middle East. And then that will obviously the lose color, it will they call it بالعربي بيفتل, or where it starts. I'm not confident about what the English word is, but where it like starts where the cotton starts kind of like making like the kind of small cotton balls, and it's no longer kind of like flat.
It starts like fraying and like getting
Fraying
like,
is the
yes.
word probably. Yes. So long as you can style it, and I feel like any way that you want and wear it confidently, so long as you don't have, like I said, other layers kind of like rubbing against it too much, and obviously not too much sweating and stuff like that. So maybe Lena, the the gym, and the gym is probably like a stretch, but so long as the itself isn't like
Getting called out live. Wow. Getting called out. Okay, well, maybe another tip also, because I will say I do think about how much Tatreez is on the pieces that I
yeah.
wear the most frequently. So that is a consideration. You can play around a little bit with how much Tatreez you're working with.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. No, you can definitely. I mean, you're talking about if you want something to be with you for years.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, yeah, that then that's what we're aiming for. But again, if you do these things, like you have something else like on another layer or sweating or whatever on the piece for like a couple times, it's not gonna change the
Yeah.
longevity of the piece. But if you want it to be super durable, we're trying to do the maximum amount of time that you have your hand embroidered piece with you.
Yeah. And you kind of started talking a little bit about this, but I'm curious if you can share with listeners as far as if they are purchasing tetris, how can they ensure that they are getting high quality tetris? Like what should somebody look for? Because you spoke about the quality really helping with longevity.
Yeah. So I guess when you're purchasing, there are a few questions that you can ask the person that you're purchasing your subsidies from, and this will definitely make a lot of difference. Number one is 100% fabric. So if you have good quality fabric, and obviously if you're making it yourself or you're purchasing from someone that does subsidies, make sure that the fabric itself is durable and that it's not low quality fabric. I mean, it's very difficult to get fabrics that don't have polyester in them, obviously, but polyester is good for saltries if it's at a low percentage, if it's a mixed fabric. And so for polyester, I think I'm not gonna like shame, polyester shame, because I think it actually makes the saltries live longer and it's much easier to embroider on. And so 100% fabric, if it's good quality fabric, then your piece is going to live long and the piece is going to be on there and it's going to look beautiful. Obviously, if it's pre-treated, so you don't want that shrinkage of the fabric, because when the fabric shrinks, then the tortillas kind of like starts moving around and the whole quality of the look is going to look different. And thread, obviously. And unfortunately, I know that probably, we're looking for alternatives, but at the moment, DMC is like number one in terms of I've even found some DMC threads that are not the best, depending on where you purchase, and sometimes the color is kind of like I've had one order where I've had like the red wasn't good quality, but DMC has always been kind of consistent. There are other brands out there that I found not to be as good. When you wash them, they do wear out more. Um, and then again, with how skilled the embroiderer is, like when they pull out the waist canvas, sometimes there's a lot of snagging. The fabric is kind of like pulled at. So it's you need to you have to have knowledge in pulling out the waist canvas, which is actually a very, very I get very nervous when we're pulling out a waist canvas for like a bridal dress or something, because we're like it's a very intricate process, especially if it's like a very I want to say light fabric or something like tulle or something that can be easily torn. Then you need to be very, very careful. One tip that I love doing when pulling out waist canvas, which will ensure that the fabric itself doesn't snag at the when you're pulling it out, is to soak the piece in water, and then that will cause the waste canvas to loosen up a bit or become softer, and it's easier to pull it out. Another thing is that when pulling out waste canvas, if this is for people that obviously do totales more than people that purchase, but maybe you can ask these questions to someone that you are purchasing from if they do these practices, is when they're pulling out waste canvas to obviously try to not have their hands kind of like holding at the embroidery itself, so that you're not kind of like pulling the embroidery or sweating on the embroidery, to when you're holding an embroidered piece, to fold it, to fold the areas that you're not embroidering inwards, so that they're not affected by a lot of the hand movements and the sweat that comes from the hands when you're embroidering. That stuff is like a very obviously there's a lot of embroidery early, then that's obviously something that you want to look for. And those are the pieces that you really want to pay a lot of attention to, because again, take a lot of time or cost a lot of money, and you really want to make sure that you're getting something that's really high quality. So once you're those are things that we look for when we personally create hand embroidery. We have to take care of all those things. And but for someone that wants to like strictly purchase, maybe it's fabric, and is my embroiderer skilled? Will they be careful when pulling out embroidery and waste canvas? And is the fabric durable? And those are the number one things I think to look for, plus the thread itself to be DMC, because that's the best quality thread.
So, quick follow-up question for people who are looking to buy Tatreez, because a lot of times, you know, especially if you're based in the West and you're ordering online, the only thing you have really is like the product description and the photos on the website. So I definitely look now, and it's interesting because I only started doing this because I started practicing Tatreez. I now look at what the fabrics are being used on an item before I purchase it, even if it's not Tatreez related. Like literally, Amani and I were talking about abayas yesterday, like for Eid, and they're all like 100% polyester, and it's just like it's like there's nothing special about polyester in my personal opinion. Like I think what you're calling out is very different, but for a piece that's like 100% polyester, it's like, and also it's really expensive. But anyway, that's another topic for another day. So what should people be looking for when they are looking online? Because I know it's kind of difficult to assess, you know, one is the product description, but like, are there things that they can kind of keep an eye out for, or is it something that they'll just have to ask the company or small business that they're purchasing from?
I think definitely have a conversation with the person you're purchasing from, because from my personal experience, and I think like fabrics can be like a whole different episode. Like I think this is like a big topic. I don't want to take up too much of the time talking about this, but I think it's a really big thing. I've learned so much, and there's still so much to learn about fabrics, but even 100% polyester can still be good. It just depends on where you're getting, where the source is, and is the person you're purchasing from, do they know the difference between a good quality polyester fabric or a very low quality, very cheap kind of like fabric. And there are very high quality polyester fabrics that I've seen and worked with. But it just, and especially when it's in the Middle East and specifically Jordan, I want to say 99% of all fabrics are almost all polyester. It's very difficult to find something that isn't, or even if it is, like that 1% or like that 5%, I want to say, if you want to find fabrics that aren't from that, 100% polyester, you need to also find a good quality mixed fabric. I found it very difficult at first to, when I was working with linens, to get a good quality linen. Even when I did find the good quality linen, it was very difficult to work with. Very, very hard to work with because it wasn't pre-washed. Had to pre-wash the whole thing. And even after that, there was inconsistencies with the manufacturers. And so it's a big deal. So if you are buying from someone and it still says 100% polyester, ask them, you know, where, what country is it coming from? Is it high quality? Does it have is it a two-face fabric? Is there breathability to it or not? These are questions that and any person that works with Tatreez, especially if they have like a website and a brand and stuff, should be able to answer. You want to look for breathability, good quality, preferably. I don't want to, you know, call out like a whole country, but I mean, there are good quality Chinese fabrics and then there's low quality Chinese fabrics, but you want to look for something that's more, I found Indonesian, Korean, Indian that are better quality fabrics. There are good quality fabrics that come out of China, but the pricing is where you get what you pay for. If you pay more, you'll get a higher tier for fabric. So definitely fabrics, when you see it, ask if you're not 100% sure if you want it or not. The best case scenario is that you find better sourced fabric. So when I was working with Mira Adnan, she did a wonderful job because this is what she studied, to find fabrics from around the world where she sourced. She got fabric that was made out of orange peel, which was like amazing. And the bags that we have, the vegan leather bags, are made out of cactus. And so it was amazing. She found the most amazing sources to get these really natural fabrics and materials that we created our collaboration with. But again, it makes the tier of the of the products themselves higher, and it's much harder to kind of move around the world. So I understand when brands kind of like want to create pieces that are more accessible to people, and they use their, whatever they can find. But still, look for quality and ask these questions about the fabrics before you buy.
Yeah, that's really cool what you said about the orange peel fabric
Yeah.
and the cactus vegan leather. Like that's really cool. And I think that's something that um is very promising about fashion is like the innovation that we are going to see continue to come out of the industry. And you mentioned a little bit about accessibility, and I know we talked about it on the first episode when you were here. Obviously, you offer both hand embroidery and machine embroidery products, for everyone of every, kind of different budget and style. I'm curious as far as like machine embroidery, because I think a lot of Palestinians, both at home and abroad, do own machine embroidered products as well. Like, are there different considerations to take in when you're caring for machine embroidery versus hand embroidery?
Yeah, so machine embroidery, again, it definitely depends on fabric, but machine embroidery generally across the board is very easy to care for. You can put it in the washing machine, unless it has those studs. Some machine embroidered items come with like those are done with a hand glue, and so that will definitely fall out in the machine embroidered, and sorry, in the washing machine. But if you don't have those studs on there, then you should definitely be able to just pop it in the washing machine, but don't spin it like not on a high spin cycle. And then you should be good. No dryer though, but definitely should be able to just like wash it like any other clothing item. Machine embroidery is much more durable. And they use fabrics that are more durable because they need to underneath those big machines like a 15 had super aggressively like kind of like embroidering, so the fabric itself needs to be very durable. And so it will be able to, live longer, obviously, and you can wash it just like any other piece of clothing.
Well, so what about hand embroidery? What are your recommendations on washing? And then also I'm curious about storing. So like in between wear and in between washing, how would you recommend people store both machine and hand embroidered pieces?
So for hand embroidered pieces, obviously hand wash is best. Use cold temperatures so you don't have those colors kind of coming out and dyeing the fabric. And so cold temperatures, hand wash, and I prefer using olive oil soap, or olive oil soap shavings if you can. I get mine from City Soap, but if you can get like a bar soap, and like sabun and abasiya and shave it, and then take those shavings, put it in cold water, and then wash your soap or Tatreez item in it. And then after that, also cold rinse. The cold rinse also helps with the tatreez to kind of like stay in place again for it not to you a bit or like come out of place. And then obviously hang to dry or lay flat to dry if you can on like a clothing rack and lay it flat. If it's a very heavily embroidered item, when you soak it in water, it's going to become super heavy and it's going to snag at the seams. So if it's very heavy soap, lay it flat on like a clothing rack. And if it's not too heavily embroidered, then you can hang to dry. Don't put it in the sun too much. You don't want those colors to change over time. And I think that's basically it. And then if you have like another option for like sabun and abisi or olive oil soap would be to be dishwashing soap. Dishwashing soap, preferably not the ones that have tons of color in them, preferably like the clear ones, that can really clean your throat very well and not, not change the tatreez or affect it in any kind of way. I prefer not to use detergents whatsoever on hand embroidery. They're very strong, and they're made to take out stains, and you can wash it like once if it was like worn at like a party and things got crazy. But but if you want to care for like everyday care, then I prefer using very soft detergents, natural ingredients, cold rinse, and to be careful with it. Just generally, it's gonna stay with you for a very long time if you care for it that way. When washing it, don't rub the tatreez against each other. Try to be very gentle, especially with the areas that have tatreez. You want the tatreez not to be rubbed too much, neither with like hands or other fabrics or whatever. Try to be gentle in those areas. Maybe wipe it with your hand if you see areas that you want to like clean from, whether it's a dust or just naturally want the colors to pop out a little bit more, then you want to just be very careful not to be rubbing it too much. After that, after it's dry, if you want to store it, I think the best way to do it is like with a garment bag that has breathability. Keep it out of the sun, and you can hang it. But if you want, I think the best way is to fold it. Fold it in the clothing bag, and then keep it, stored somewhere where it's not humid and there's no sun. That's the best way I think that you can store it. Take it out every now and then, make sure that there's no smells or anything. There are obviously products that you can put inside to make sure that there's no mold or anything in the clothing itself if you're not sure about the environment or you live in a humid climate. But generally speaking, you should be able to keep it for a very long time that way. And I think that's basically it. If there's like a lot of maybe stains or something like that, then that's a different story. If the tatreez itself doesn't usually stain, you stain the fabric, so you can spot clean those areas. So like isolate that area, make sure that you're using like maybe like a soft toothbrush or something like that, like a soft brush. And that's the area that you can treat with a detergent, or something to kind of like take that spot if there's like staining or something from that spot. Make sure when you're rinsing the detergent, especially if you're using something for stains, to rinse that whole area without it contacting the tatreez itself.
Mm.
I've had, emergencies where we've had to like use even like bleach on areas, and there was tatreez. So it was sort of nerve-wracking. But you isolate that area, try to use whatever detergent that you need to get that stain out, because you really want that piece. You don't want to lose it. You don't want that stain there. So even if you do have like a light colored one and you want to use bleach, you can. Just make sure you rinse it very well and you don't get that bleach to contact the tatreez itself. Um, any other kind of stains that you get there, you can use alcohol too. Alcohol kind of tends to break down like if it's like ink or something like that, it breaks it down and it doesn't affect the tatreez.
Hmm. That's interesting. So would you, with the alcohol, would you just kind of like soak it, or would you do something similar where you're talking about like a soft brush and kind of gently rubbing that area with the soft
With
brush?
alcohol, like usually rubbing alcohol, I usually kind of tend to spray depending on how
Oh,
severe
okay.
the situation is. But sometimes, like with the workshop, there's like pens around,
Yeah.
and it's happened before where we've had, like a stain, an ink stain on tatreez. So definitely with the alcohol, make sure that you're spraying it on the area. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, you can soak the whole area and then rinse it out. There are some types of fabrics, if you do soak it in water just on one area, it's gonna kind of give you that water stain afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
You can soak the whole tatreez in it afterwards. Like if you spot treated an area and then you feel like, oh my God, it looks kind of different, or there's like a water stain, you still can wash the whole thing yourself. Now, in terms of like taking it to the dry cleaners or something like that, a lot of people ask me, can I take my piece to the dry cleaners? You can, but make sure to tell them not to use heat. Make sure to tell them not to put it in like a tumbling machine. It needs to be hand washed. It needs to be handled with care with their hands, and not in a machine. And also make sure when they're ironing, and this is something for someone that wants to iron at home or wants to take it to, not to use steam.
Mm.
Steam is not very good when it comes to filters. You can technically, but preferably do it, if they want to do it at the dry cleaners, they can, but not too much water, the high steam. And if there's beading, no steam at all. And I prefer doing tatreez to when we're ironing to do it inside out. So turn it
Mhm.
inside out, iron, and then turn it back in. So that's the best way. Again, none of what I'm saying is like going to damage your piece if you do it, we're just talking about the best way to preserve it and for it to
Yeah.
live longer and for you not to have that, to have to worry about maintaining it after or, troubleshooting it.
Yeah. Even as you're talking, I'm like thinking like these are all great tips too, even for non-wearable tatris. Like I always like my pieces that I frame, I always wash them. And exactly what you're talking about. I actually need to start washing them with Nabdasi soap though, because I love that. Very
Yeah.
Palestinian process. But same kind of concept. Like when you're ironing, you do it from the back and all those things. So I think these are like really, really good tips. For just like caring for your tetris in general, again, whether it's wearable or something you frame or it's a pillowcase, like whatever you are tetrizing, these are like really, really good tips on how to preserve all of that. And I know, we touched on this a little bit earlier, but I think that this is definitely a topic that still deserves a lot of love and a lot of conversation around. And I know people are constantly asking, especially when they are purchasing tetris. But we talked a little bit about like how people could look for high quality tetris, but what should people look for when they are buying tetris to really ensure that they're supporting fair labor practices?
I think the best thing to do is to ask a lot of questions. Like ask the person that you're buying from all the questions that you feel like will bring you peace of mind. And I don't believe that there's too many questions to ask when it comes to this topic. They should be able to answer all of your questions, and you're not asking too much. I think I love it when people ask me these questions. I think I feel the care and that this person really wants to know, that the embroiderers are cared for and that the process in itself is a good process. And I think that this brings me a lot of joy as someone that makes the place. So if it should you shouldn't feel like as a buyer that you're asking too much. So ask them what their process is. Who do they work with in terms of embroidery, like where the women are from. And I think the number one thing to ask is how they compensate them. And it's okay to ask them that because you're paying them, you're paying them for something it's a project. Like making a Tatriz piece is a project. Like when you go into like a meeting to do a project, it's going to take months. So you need to know all the details, like who's going to be doing this? How are we paying them? Are they being paid per piece? Are they being paid for their time or are they being paid per tulpe? Which is like for ball of thread. I think, in my opinion, paying embroiderers for ball of thread is the worst mechanism in the world. I think it's very unfair. And unfortunately, that's how most people work when it comes to tattoos, especially in the Middle East. And so I want to say when like to ask those questions, and just imagine that you're going into it kind of like with this person facilitating, creating something for you, like you're working in a business setting. So, okay, we're going into this, we're creating something that's going to take us months. Let's talk about who's going to be working here, how are you paying them? And don't feel shy to ask those questions. They should be able to answer you. And if they don't, or hesitate or make you feel uncomfortable, then that's not a good place to buy your tattoos from. They should be able to answer all these questions. They should be happy to answer these questions for you and because it's a community. I mean, if someone asks me these questions, that means that they have my embroiderers at heart, people that I love and I work with. So it's not something that should be, anyone should be gatekeeping or kind of like not talking about. I think it should be an open process. As a facilitator, as a brand, I'm only, opening up a channel for people to be able to use my brand as a way to create something for themselves, especially if it's customization. So at the end of the day, it's your piece, it's your time, it's your money. And for me, I should be able to answer all those questions. So ask every question that you have, and if the answers don't sound right, then you need to do a little bit more research about how this piece is being created. And don't be shy to do it. Again, questions to ask are where the embroiderers are from? Do they work from home? Are they being compensated per piece or per ball of thread or for their time? For their time and for per piece should be good. I mean, the person that's creating the Tatreez piece obviously is not going to tell you how much, it costs them. No brand's going to do that. But if they're paying them per piece or for their time, that's good. That's really good. If they're paying them per ball of thread and they're being honest with you and telling you that they're paying them per ball of thread, I don't think that's a fair mechanism.
These are such good tips. I mean, even for me, I'm like, this is amazing to hear, and also to be kind of encouraged to ask. And when you say it from that perspective, as the person behind the scenes as well, like you're working with these women, and this gives you like peace that the person who is buying from you cares about your process and about like they stand in line with your values as a business owner. That really puts it into perspective as well. So then let's say you find someone and they're wonderful and they answer all your questions and you decide to go forward with it. How do you honor the work of the woman that made the piece? How like what gives you joy when you see your customers wearing and styling the pieces that they buy from you?
The one thing that I love in this whole process is when the customer or the person buying the piece wants to thank the embroiderers personally, whether it's through a note or sending them a voice message or sending a message through me. A lot of the time they'll send me like a video, like tell, whoever made this that, I love it. And so I'll show them the images or I'll show them the videos that the client sends me that they tell me to show the embroiderers and or set or translate if it's like English, translate the messages to them. And I think that's to them, it makes all the difference, because this is something that they've been working on for months and months and months. Like imagine you're working on a project for like 3, 4 months and then you don't get to see the end result. You know, you want to see the end result. You want to see that the person that you did this for loves it and that they wore it and they're happy with your work. No edits, no comments, that's like the best feeling. And so they feel very, very fulfilled all the time whenever this happens, whenever they get that feedback, that drives them all the time. And obviously, um, acknowledging their time and their effort and their knowledge, because a lot of the time embroiderers, they're not given the prop, they're not given value, for their work. And it's not considered something like a craft or a skill that they hold. They don't feel that way. People don't make them feel that way. And so it's great to people when they see that their items are being worn all around the world and people tell them that this is super, great quality, beautiful. I love it. It's wonderful. So great feedback to the embroiderers, and they feel like they have a very great skill and a craft that's actually of value. And so I think that's, just the feedback, giving feedback. I'm not one that used to give feedback. Like I'm too shy. Like I just say, thank you and just like go away. But then when I started seeing like the positive impact of what really, of what feedback does to the person that made something, now it's like changed my personal perspective and I love it when customers do that too. So feedback and appreciation, obviously, and personalized messages or personalized notes is always the best.
That like warms my heart as you're saying that. I'm like, oh my God, I love that. Like yeah, I mean, as somebody who does embroider myself, like I can see how special it would be for these women to get that like kind of like personal thank you, or even just being able to like see the finished product on the client and how happy it makes them. So yeah, if you guys buy Tatreez, please, please,
Yeah.
please take Sada's suggestion to heart, because I think that's so beautiful and so special. And I also feel like it's like just like a way to like connect even deeper with the Tatreez that's being made, and our culture, and this connection of people who are Palestinians, who are refugees, like still living in the Arab world, and how they can connect with us, through in the diaspora. So that's a really, really beautiful sentiment. Thank you for sharing
Yeah, and I
that.
just want to say, I think this whole conversation generally just, I love that we're what we're doing is And what Tatreez does is kind of take us back to the practices of like what clothing really means. And what I mean what clothing really means is like it's a craft, it's an art. And it's not like if you buy an item out of the mall, you never know who made that or where, probably where it was made or how it was made or what the conditions were of the people that made them. You're just buying it because it looks good and you're probably going to change it in a few months or years. But I think the whole community of the trees, the fact that you can actually connect to the person that made it, you can thank them and you know who they are and you know what their lives kind of like were, you can like connect to that person to whatever level that you can. And I think it's so beautiful. Like it takes away a lot of what the fashion industry has tried to, impose on us, where it's
Mhm.
like flipping fast. You don't know who made it. You have no idea how much of this was made, and you don't know what the conditions were, or what the fabric is, or how it's made, and everything's kind of like gatekept, and no one knows anything about anything. You're just wearing it because it's like a trend or like a fashion trend or whatever. But I think the practice, the whole idea of Tatreez kind of like silences all of that out. And
Mhm.
it's a whole beautiful environment where, everyone's connected and
Yeah.
the pieces are, made especially for you, or it's very specific and the people making them are making them out of a heritage and are, it has so much more meaning. And the
Mhm.
fact that you can connect to the maker is really beautiful, I think, and even caring for it. Like even the tips that we're giving for caring for tattoos, you can do for every piece of clothing, obviously,
Mhm.
because we don't want to keep flipping, the
Yes.
clothes. You can still care and maintain your clothes so that it is environmentally safer for us to be able
Mhm.
to, to practice these practices with our garments, even if they don't have tattoos.
Yeah. Even as again, as you're talking and you're saying this, I'm like in my head, I'm thinking, I'm like, yeah, this is also a way to like have these women be a part of your story. You know, when you stitch your own tatreez, whether it's a thobe or something that you frame, or a decorative piece, like you are telling your story in some way. And now you have these women who are a part of your story because they are helping you stitch this and again, really reflecting and telling whether it's like something that you're customizing or just something that is already existing maybe on Deerah's website, but you see it and you fall in love with it and you connect with it. So, this is like just beautiful. Giving me all the feels. Like, I love it. I love
Yeah.
it so much. So one question, kind of taking it a little bit more personal. We've talked a lot about the trees and how to care for it and these women that are creating it and what these pieces mean both to the buyer as well as the person who's helping create it. I'm curious for you, Sara, do you have a personal Tetris piece that has like some kind of special story behind it?
Yeah, I do. So I own two thobes. One of them I bought from one of our embroiders that we then recreated, and it's on the website. And so I originally bought it from her when I was going to get, some tattoos from one of our embroiderers a few years back. And she was like, I have this huge bag of old thobes, do you want to see them? So I was like, yeah, let's see them. And I was there with my mom, and me and my mom ended up being there for like around, I want to say 2 to 3 hours. We were supposed to just pick up something and then leave. But then, yeah, we were like swimming in tatrees and old tatrees and like just, bits and pieces. And I saw this soap and I was like, oh my God. And it had the little patterns on she called them Ijr al-Hamam, which I learned from her, which is like the kind of patchwork that they used to do on the opening of the thobe. And it was so beautiful. Like that detail itself, like I was like, this is so beautiful. I've never seen anything like that in my life. It was so well done, very intricate. Like the tatreez itself was so packed. Like there's no spaces in that tatreez. I was so impressed. I was like, how is this in like a black bag somewhere? And like, no, this is so beautiful. And it had manajit. The manajit were beautiful, like stacked one on top of the other. There's no spaces whatsoever. Beautiful. fantastic quality. So I was like, this is amazing. I want this. And it had like small sonata with like the small little, she had like flowers with the sonata. And I'm like, this is so cute. I want it now. To put it in a bag. I don't care how much it costs. I want it. And so that was I think the first soap that I purchased, and then we created a soap for myself that we also have on the website too. When we were creating one of the collections, and it was quite the learning process for me because I really wanted to make it, and so with the waist canvas that wasn't 11 count, I wanted it smaller. I wanted it more packed with tatreez. And so like the embroiderer was like, okay, you want to kill me, right? Like you want to kill my eyes. Like I just want it to be, really full with tatreez and for it to be really intricate and beautiful. She was like, okay, got it. And so I was like, okay, this is gonna take like a few months, whatever. And but it took a lot of time. It was like almost like a year. And because it was so small and she was taking her time, it was just one person and she was older. But I really wanted to see her process. So every time I'd visit, I'd see where we're at, and it made me learn so much patience and it was one of those things where it built up my appreciation for embroidery and kind of really wanted me to change the way that they were being paid from learning how much I had to wait for this soap. Like every time I'd see it, I'm like, okay, I can see the birds here. Okay, we're getting somewhere. You really have to wait and be patient, and then when you have it, it's really beautiful, and it's it's just something that you know that you're going to keep for life. But it was a learning process for me because all of this time I still didn't know a lot about fabrics, and I don't know if I talked to you, Lena, about this, but I picked the wrong fabric. All this work and I picked the wrong fabric. I wish I had known more about fabrics back then. I would have probably had my thobe in a really much more beautiful fabric, but I still love it. I think it's really very beautiful. I'm going to keep it for life. But everything, I've learned. So for now, I'm not making any more thobes for me until I know, until I know what I want, because you're designing things all the time and you don't know what you want. But those are really two important thobes to me because one of them taught me a lot about how tatreez is devalued, and the other taught me patience and about the process itself about tatreez and how the women are being paid fairly for their time.
What beautiful story. So which dresses are these on the Deerah website?
You're gonna put me on
Or is
spot,
this not,
right?
is that secret knowledge?
No, no, it's not secret. You're just gonna put me on spot because my brain isn't working. I'm processing, my brain isn't working, and I forgot the names of the soaps or what I named them on the website.
You can tell us afterwards. Don't worry, we can put it in
Okay,
the show
okay,
notes. Yeah.
we'll
Yeah,
tag them
yeah.
down
We'll tag
below.
them. It makes people go to the Deerah website and actually go peruse as well.
Okay.
So this is actually it's a secret marketing technique.
Okay, not so secret anymore.
Oh, I love these. These are such beautiful stories. Sara, thank you so much for coming and joining us. This is a perfect
Course.
conversation. I guess maybe one last question. Is there anything that you want our listeners to like really take with them from this conversation? Maybe something about, something that you wish that they knew about preserving tatreez or caring for tatreez or how tatreez is made and how to make it ethically. If you had to say one thing, what would it be?
I think just generally I just love the idea of caring for tatreez and caring for it and caring for the piece itself, but also caring for the art, caring for the people behind the art,
Yeah.
for the artisans, the whole process, respecting the process, respecting the heritage in that way, knowing that in order for the art of tatreez to continue, for these artisans to continue doing what they're doing, you have to pay them well and you have to pay respect to their time and their efforts. Also, once you receive the piece, in order for it to be sustained and for it to, for it to be durable and to last and to keep that, very special piece with you all of your life, and even pass it on afterwards, to care for it is a really beautiful thing. It really teaches us so many lessons that I think that we've kind of like unlearned in this fast-paced, way of fashion and life. To really slow down and think more about the pieces that we're wearing, the practices that we bring into our lives, and the people that are behind all of this, whether it's the history, the people that are currently creating it, or how we're going to sustain it in the future. I think it's very important. It makes us very more mindful and to really go back to our roots and how our ancestors really did create these pieces and sustain them too.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you so much, Sara.
Thank you. Thank you guys so much.
This was great. We always appreciate your time and your words and the tatreez that you put out into the world. So thank you so much for all the work that you do and for taking the time to chat with us and our
Of
listeners.
course, anytime. Of course.
Amazing. We'll definitely have you back on because I know we have so much more to talk about. But again, thank you so much, Sada. And we will definitely talk to you soon.
I absolutely adore talking to Sara. So when actually, Amanda, you were the one with the idea to bring her on for this particular topic, I was like, yes, I love talking to Sara. And honestly, it's like this particular topic and like specifically what it gives me so much joy because literally a lot of my presentations when I talk about Tatreez is there's been a huge issue at 1948 besides everything else. Like obviously it's a huge issue, but like in 1948 the biggest thing for me from my perspective, like when I look at the history of Tatriz, is that that was literally the moment the wearer was separated from the maker.
Mm.
And that's literally the entire foundation of what I do with Lina's Thob and like why I'm so passionate about Thob making is because the original tradition is that you're making it for yourself. It's not like you like when you remove that experience, it removes the meaning and the symbolism and the connection to all the people in your life and things like that. So what Sada is doing is so important. Like this type of work where you're really taking into consideration the person who's making the piece. It is part of the wear and care of the piece because you're keeping the essence of the person who made it with it and with you. And I think that's so valuable. And times are different now, and not everyone necessarily wants to or has the time or has interest in making something that they will wear. But if you're conscious and thinking about the meaning behind that piece and really taking care of it so that it lasts a long time and you kind of maintain it and keep it for a for many, many years, hopefully, and for many generations, hopefully, that takes us back to that tradition that I feel like we've kind of lost as a society, and that we're starting to bring back. And I think that's so powerful. I love that concept so much.
Yeah, I mean, I told Sada when we kind of stopped recording, but it's like I got really teary-eyed when she was talking about, sending the notes to the women and how excited they are and like what it means to them. Because I think to your point, it's like, yeah, there is this disconnect between the creator and the wearer, and being able to kind of like connect the two, literally just through like a simple thank you. I think
Yeah.
is like so powerful and so beautiful. Um, and like I'm just like, oh my God, I don't even have something like I don't even have a custom made Deerah something, but I'm like now I want one just so that I can like connect with these like
Yeah.
women who are creating it. But I think it is really powerful. And something that Sada said that I kind of forgot to bring up while we were talking to her because there was so much and I was so excited. But she had mentioned the fact that a lot of times these embroiderers don't get the love that they deserve or the recognition, and it's not seen as a quote unquote skill. And I think
Hmm.
that goes to a larger conversation that is not just within Palestinian embroidery, but you know, it is a larger societal conversation when there are things that are seen as quote unquote women's work. They are often devalued. And Tatriz, Palestinian embroidery, has always traditionally been quote unquote women's work. And I think that Palestinians, and quite frankly, even Palestinian men, like literally the other night, I was at Suhoor Fest and I had my thobe on, one of my handmade thobes, and this ammo, when I was getting iftar, this ammo was asking me about my thobe and where it was from. And like he definitely appreciated it, but he's also Palestinian, has a
Yeah.
Palestinian
Yeah.
mother. So I'm sure he understands the work that goes into it. But it is, I think, very, very important to also just reiterate the fact that things that are, again, quote unquote, woman's work do not always get the recognition that they should. And again, like these little acts of just like, if you are buying something that is created, some tatreez that is created by someone else, like kind of showing your appreciation for that clearly goes a very, very long way. So I love that Sada had mentioned that, and I think I highly encourage anyone who buys Tatreez of any kind to just thank the person who created it, because you never know like how meaningful that thank you will be to them.
Yeah, and also it goes hand in hand with this concept of valuation, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
because the person who's not making it is buying it, they don't like you will never understand. And we talk about this all the time on Tatreez Talk.
Mm-hmm.
You never understand how much work goes into it until you do it yourself. And
Yeah.
I think like this is a really small way of just understanding a little bit about what goes behind those scenes, like just asking those questions from the onset, like who's going to be doing the work, how are they being paid, where are they working from? Those are all part of like us as a community, as a broader community, to value Tatreez where it should be valued, especially because we still live in this very capitalist world. And yeah, all of it is just so connected. And I think Sara mentioned this too, like Tatreez is able to bring all of these things together in a way that can maybe change it and returned us back to how our ancestors did it, which was the best way, I think.
Definitely. Well, I hope that everyone found as much value as we found in this episode, because I definitely learned a lot of things. So again, thank you so much for listening to Tatreez Talk as always. We want to hear about your own Tatreez journeys, so please share your stories with us at tatreeztalk@gmail.com, and we might have you on an upcoming episode. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on your favorite listening platform, and be sure to leave a 5-star review. You can follow me at Min Amani and Lena at Lena Stob. And of course, you could follow the podcast at The Threes Talk. We'll talk to you soon.